Welcome to another episode of the Hayes Leading with Pride series in partnership with Fair Consulting. I'm Joanne Allsop, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a director with the UK and Ireland Hayes business. I'm joined today by Louise.
Hi there, my name's Louise Christian-Barrett. I am currently Interim Head of People at GSMA. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Likewise. Thank you for that, and thank you for coming today. Now, Louise, before we get into today, just to give a bit of context, I am obviously a vast career, very impressive career. More recently, I think we can say you've worked in real leadership roles within the change management, human resources, leadership type market. I am often with corporates around or in London. Can you just bring that to life for us, please?
Yeah, of course. So I guess I started my career in the learning and development space. I've probably been working now for about 20 years plus, always in the people space, which has been great. And I've worked in a number of different industries, from finance to pharmaceutical, more recently in gambling and gaming. And now more in the kind of the tech space. So that's given me a great opportunity to, have a breadth of experience with different people across the board.
Meet lots of different types.
Absolutely,
yeah. Very intrigued. Okay, so look, obviously under the guise of today, I think we can say that, or at least we hear, there has been real D&I progress made over the last number of years. But I'd love your take on that. Do you think that there has been real tangible progress made? And if so, Louise, are there real pinpoint moments that bring that to life?
So I think the easy answer is yes. There's a lot more complication and intricacies in between. When I think about when I first started out professionally and what it was like in terms of being a woman who, identifies as lesbian. I came out, goodness me, 30 years ago, and it was very different then. So there was always that anxiety and anxiousness. You never knew kind of what you were going to get when you joined a company. And I've been really lucky, I think, because each company that I've joined over the years, I've been probably more confident in showing up immediately. After having, a few catastrophes along the way, and some people had responded in a way that wasn't particularly positive. But I think, as I've kind of grown in my confidence and with, who I am, then it's been easier. I think that one of the big things that I've seen is that people are more happy to be visible.
Okay, and you think that really that must have a snowball effect, right?
I think so, yes.
The community, but also on allies and moving the message forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, the ally groups are really important. People that kind of join and really take the time to understand what it's like for people in the LGBT plus community. That makes all the difference. And I think we've seen more of that and more really meaningful work around that kind of allyship space.
Okay. So in terms of where we are now, you think it sounds like having confidence to be yourself is instrumental. And I think that applies to lots of things, doesn't it? Right? Being your authentic self is so important. But also we're saying that there's more involvement and focus from the organisation, but also there's that movement of people having a voice.
Yes. And
if they identify within the LGBTQ plus community, they're raising that voice. So there is that galvanised type of feeling, as there should be, right? So happy days. Okay. Now, we're obviously not at the finish line. I don't know if will we ever be at the finish line? I don't know. But is there anything you think, look, oh gosh, we've still got some strides to make here? Or is there anything you think, oh God, maybe this would be a good idea to move things a bit further along? Or is it a bit more gradual than that,
It is. It is a moving feast. And I think that, as things evolve, we are getting better. I felt more recently that there is a bit of a reluctance sometimes because people don't want to get things wrong.
I've read
Okay.
this. I have read this, yeah.
So, you know,
certain
the whole-
demographics as well.
Yeah, so certain demographics, you know, we're all learning. We spend hours at school learning about Pythagoras' theorem, which some of us will still use. I've
And
never
how many
used it.
times have you used that
Never.
since?
Never. But we don't actually learn about each other. And I think, you know, that is getting better. So the younger generation are being more educated and I think a little bit more curious. Whereas, you know, some leaders who've been around for a while are a bit nervous. You know, the whole cancel culture can be quite paralysing.
So do you think could there be a role then in more of the reverse mentoring type thing within a company? Could that be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it is about moving through that fear and being courageous and curious. And the leaders that do that really well, I think, are the ones where you see real movement. And it's less around ticking boxes because it's something that, you know, should be done. And more around actually recognising that it's a business imperative. Business is going to get better as a result of having more diversity, as well as just the right thing to do.
I completely agree. The being your authentic self at work arguably is so important for productivity, attrition rates, right? People being happier in the workplace. So there's a commercial sense to this, but at the end of the day, it is just, yes, the right thing to do, right? Okay. Now, you mentioned a few minutes ago that, you know, you've also had confidence, which is enviable, is amazing, right? But obviously maybe in earlier years or the younger Lou, you know, maybe not always as relatively easy as it is now. Have you felt any challenges, particularly because of your sexuality through your career, or hopefully not recently, but, you know, does anything stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I think there have been some moments for me which, you know, on reflection have helped me to build my tenacity around the subject, I think. There was a part, I'll be honest, where I kind of fought against the whole visibility piece, because for me, you know, my sexuality was something that was very private, it was very personal, and I didn't feel the need to shout about it. And an organisation I was once in was kind of, you know, would you like to come and represent the gay community on posters? I was like, no, thanks. You know, I know what happens in posters in staff rooms, you know. And I was a bit like, actually, there's more to me than my sexuality. So in my younger years, I did fight against that. And I didn't really understand then the importance of, you know, if you don't see it, you can't be it, and all of that good stuff. And I remember it really hitting home when I was asked to join a committee, the diversity committee at the organisation that I was in. And we were running an event around Pride Month. And I went along to this event. There was free alcohol.
Nice.
Why not? And it was a colleague of mine, and she talked to me about the fact that her daughter had just come out.
Okay.
And she wanted to have a coffee and chat about it because she said that she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what that meant. And so for me, I thought, actually, you know, by seeing me and knowing who I am and feeling comfortable enough to kind of sit down and say, you know, what was it like when you came out? You know, how did your family take it? I thought, if I can do that, if I've made a difference to just one person and they can go and have a meaningful conversation with their daughter. And that really was the pivotal point for me to go, do you know what, this is really important. This isn't just about people within the community. It's getting other people to understand. And if I can be part of that, then great. And so I then kind of changed my mindset. And I have come across, you know, some clumsy, I think, is probably the best.
That sounds very politically correct.
You know, people are a little bit clumsy, and they think, you know, they can say things because I am quite open, and I like to think that, you know, I've got quite a sense of humour, and I'm quite self-deprecating. But sometimes, you know, people just might say something that I might not find particularly offensive or uncomfortable, but I'm also very aware of the surroundings that I'm in, and I always think, you know, if there was somebody else in the vicinity that heard that kind of language, that heard that kind of, you know, banter, then that could absolutely set them back. So Yeah, so for me, again, it's really important that, I help people to, it's not about calling people out for me, it's very much about bringing people in.
Okay,
you don't want to embarrass people.
You don't
want to embarrass people because, we can all be a little bit clumsy, we can all make mistakes. So for me, it's just taking that time to kind of go, well, did you, the impact of that might be this, just take a couple of beats to think about it.
And, I am pretty confident that every workplace would be better off for it if more and more people took that approach. I am on lots of subjects, right? I am okay, so it sounds like there has been a good shift to where we are now. Obviously, we're not at the finish line, like we say. I am, in terms of, and that clumsiness, I think that is interesting, because I think we hear in the industry a lot about the human resources industry, our learning and development industry, the importance of really coaching and training our management and our leadership population on how to lead in an inclusive way. And a lot of it is around people don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
And the irony in it, it's like there's a respect there. We think, oh gosh, like actually we could just move things forward if we did just try. But I do feel companies are really investing into that. Are we putting the money into our leaders to really move them forward in this space, As an ally, is there anything in particular that you think allies could do? You've mentioned joining, facilitated conversations, we're talking about the leaders, but what's good to see in an ally, Lou? Like how can they help?
For me, it's about education to a certain extent. I remember having a conversation with somebody once and them saying about, the fact that language changes very often and it's really difficult to keep up with language, as an example. And I said, well, as a gay woman, I don't get a USB update every month. I can just plug it in and I know the latest lingo.
I don't believe that.
You don't. So, I have to keep, particularly as a D&I leader, I have to keep up to date with kind of what's happening and what the right things are to do. And I think as an ally, it's broadening your network. If you can join a group and it's something that you really do care about, not so that it's performative and that you feel that you have to, I think you have to have a certain amount of curiosity around this subject and want to know more. I think when you notice things happening, colleagues that you spend a lot of time with, you will notice changes in behaviour. Check in. If you're in a room and, it's very often the loudest voices get heard, don't they? And that goes across everything. So just take a little bit of time to notice what might be going on. And if you hear something that doesn't quite fit right, check in, and help them with their visibility as well and their kind of confidence in terms of, coaching them, sharing your experiences, but making sure that you're not forgetting that kind of community, because it can be more difficult.
It sounds like you're saying to be genuine, be human about it, right? Which is so funny, isn't it? Because it doesn't sound complicated, but obviously not quite enough of it's happening. Maybe not yet. Okay. If you were to go into an organisation now, obviously you're an interim lead at the moment. If you were to take on a longer term role and be really setting up or contributing to the D&I strategy or really driving inclusion within the business, are there 2 or 3 things that you would say, look, absolutely, I'd hang my hat on these strategies to really bring the D&I strategy to life?
Do you know, it's really interesting because joining the company that I'm in currently, and this is another thing I think we need to be, cognizant of, is this subject is really important for people joining organisations. So it's making sure that, one of the things that I looked at is what is GSMA's approach to this subject. And I have to say, it's early days, but I've been really impressed with the work that's already being done. So I felt immediately that it was somewhere that I would be able to belong. There was no reluctance. I think for
That's
me,
so cool.
It's really nice when you find a bunch of people who are kind of going in the right direction and who are open. It's really refreshing. I think for me, it's about within your strategy. If you have a listening strategy, when it comes to engagement, is make sure that with your focus groups that they're a diverse groups of people, and actively go out and seek the people that are happy to talk about the subject. And that in itself can be quite tricky because not everybody wants to, but don't be scared. They will say no, and you can move on and find somebody else. So, and use your kind of employee resource groups to consult on policy. In a previous organisation, we were working on a policy for employees who were transitioning or were transgender. So for me, it was about, right, who have we already got in the business who can help us with this?
Right, okay.
So really get people involved and from the ground up, because they will tell you what it's like and whether or not what you're suggesting actually resonates, and that's what it really is like in this organisation. And I would also say partner with the experts. Inclusive employers are absolutely fantastic. Just one of them. There are other groups available. But I found my experience with them is absolutely fantastic. But again, partner with the experts out there, because even though I have lived experience, I would like to think I'm somewhat of an expert in the subject because I've studied it and I've worked within it. But again, make sure that you've got somebody working alongside you.
Always good to get a second voice. So really bringing a diverse group together, different voices, really important. I am people who care, who are interested, really try and build from the ground up where possible. Obviously not always final sign off, but I am good to getting people involved, and then engage with some industry experts. I am where you can or where you feel to really help bring it. I am to keep it on the agenda, to make it the norm, right?
Yeah. And I think the absolute key to this, because very often in the people space, we do, when it comes to engagement, you want to build from the ground up.
Yes.
But I can't emphasise how much leadership is so important, that people in senior leadership positions are seen to really care about this.
It's a do as I do culture, isn't it?
Yeah, and for them to be visible and actually talking about it as part of their strategy. It shouldn't be. It's always the same, isn't it? HR owns so much around the people space, rightly, but this is everybody. The sense of belonging should belong. It belongs to everybody.
Completely. There's the entire workforce, right? Yeah, I agree with that. Look, Louise, thank you so much for today. That's been so insightful.
You're welcome.
It's been great to have you, and good luck with the current role.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening. I really hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or via Spotify or Apple for the podcast. If you'd like any further information or pointers on what's been discussed today, please reach out to any of the Hayes UK and Ireland websites or fairerconsulting.com.